Listen, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth. Somebody asked me, can you make a video about SELFAHATE, let it breathe? And this guy right here, Auston Holleman, back at it again, went and told the whole world American women are that bad and dating in America is just that bad. That's what he had to do to sell controversy. In order for him to be able to live his dream, he had to put down black women in America, which is sad. And I'm going to say this again. And this is why I tell you guys that you could make it on YouTube without having to talk about women. And you could make it on YouTube without having to put down your own women and your own kind. Let it breathe. He said, after looking at some of the photos of women I have dated in Brazil, and we're going to talk about Brazil as well, and shout out to the female who stopped in Brazil. Yes, a black female stopped him in Brazil because he was on some boy nonsense in Brazil. And shout out to that sister. I got 2 slides on her because she was the one who put an end to that nonsense that he was promoting. Now, he said about 80% of the women in my recent content are way below my standards. Let me tell you guys something about Africa. Africa is like America. Infomercials are not going to tell you this, but Africa is like America. But the thing about it is a lot of African dudes in Africa, they got oil money. So when it comes to the women, as far as being easy, because a lot of these guys on this new incel movement, they just love everything to be easy. They want life to be easy. They love a woman to love them like their mother, let it breathe. So the whole passport movement, brother, it's all about the path of least resistance. Let me tell you guys something. Before we go any further, you could have least resistance in America as well, too. These guys are trying to make it seem like all women are like this. All is lost. All is doomed. Every black woman is a Sukihana. Every black woman is a sexy red. Absolutely not. And I'm going to say this, absolutely not. For this man to say women are below his standards, who does he think he is? And this is the problem with this generation. A lot of men really want to judge women. We don't know what it's like to be a woman. Listen, we talk about $80 haircuts and $60 haircuts. Women got to sit down. They got to get their hair braided for 5 to 6 hours. They literally got to keep up with their maintenance just to impress us. At the end of the day, as a man, how could we say a woman who do the most to make us happy, who do the most to make us turn around and do a head turn, to do the most and make us put our hazard lights on and hop out the car like, shorty, what's good, what's your number? How dare we say that they are below our standards? Shout out to this female right here in Brazil. She pretty much alerted and sounded the horn. Listen, she's a frontline soldier. Everybody put FLS and put the female emoji. She's a frontline soldier. She went to war and shut this nonsense down because, see, a lot of men are bitter with women. And in America, a lot of black men, they have a problem with black women. But my main thing is, what is the problem other than black women are now starting businesses? If the government wants to give them grants, if the government wants to give them loans, at the end of the day, it's none of our business. As men, if we decided to date women and something went left and things went south, guess what? It's our fault. If we never asked for the phone number, nothing would have ever happened to us. We asked for the phone number. We were in pursuit. So if we wanted it, guess what? We need to also deal with the outcome as men. I keep telling you guys, don't get bitter, get better. So what Auston Holleman did was he came on YouTube, and it was a quick blow up, but see, this is why I tell you guys, take your time, stack your crumbs and build your pie. Because see, once you start off on controversy, it's good in the beginning, but it doesn't last. And not only is he disrespecting black women in America, now he's disrespecting the 80% of women in his content from Africa. And he said that they are below his standards. And I believe that's a lie. But let's get back into this female right here. Listen, this female right here, she pretty much said that men come to Brazil all the time and want to take advantage of our women. This man went and told everybody in America, after this man came to YouTube, listen, it is now hard to get a passport. This man said that you could go to Brazil and you could get laid easily. He said you could get laid without a problem. He said you could just kiss women for 30 minutes and you could just go to Brazil and you could just have your way in Brazil. He went to other places like Baja, Salvador, and he also said, oh, Rio is way easier. This man was given a pipeline. He was a Harriet Tubman of getting laid in Brazil. And I'm going to say that again. He was he had an underground railroad. He was a male version of Harriet Tubman recruiting. He was a Calipari of getting laid. He was recruiting freshman point guards into the University of Rio. He was recruiting freshman point guards into the community of Baja, Salvador. This man was telling everybody, come to Brazil. It's a fast way to get laid. And he was also doing clips with females as well. Like, listen, if you like me right now, would you go home with me right now? The female was like, yeah. He was like, fellas, get your passports. Let me tell you guys something. This female right here put an end to this. After she stood up for her people, and this is why I love outside of America. You got people from Seattle, they don't even stand up for people from Seattle. You got people from Brooklyn, they don't even stand up for people from Harlem. You got people within the same state who don't even stand up for each other. So for this lady to stand up for all the women in Brazil, I just want to say, pump up the volume, pump up the volume, pump, 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 pump up the volume, pump up the volume. He's out of there. My man can't go back. And the thing that's crazy is now a lot of the passport bros, they were using females to promote their content and get views. Now the females that they're promoting, they turned around and now they're getting all the views. So as far as the whole passport bro movement in Brazil, that right now has come to an end. And the whole passport bro movement, what they did was they went to Brazil and they shot content with females. Let me tell you guys something. I don't have women in my videos and I'm still able to do my thing. A lot of these guys out here, they are not your friends. They are selling you a whole bunch of nonsense and BS. Let me tell you guys something about Brazil. And this is why this lady stood up for her people. A lot of people in Brazil, you think about the Deep South, man, Brazil is worse than the Deep South. At the end of the day, people of color in Brazil, listen, a lot of people are finally, when I mean finally breaking through, they're finally breaking through. Now, this is one of my favorite YouTubers in Brazil, and she was a female that we saw on one of these passport bros. Now she started her own YouTube channel. Now she's getting like 300K views. Listen, I just want to tell this female, pump up the volume, pump up the volume. Listen, I'm definitely subscribed to her channel. But when Auston Holleman said that the females in Africa don't compare to the females in Brazil, you got to understand the females in Brazil are the same females from Africa. And this is nonsense. And this is why it's important for you guys to travel. Listen, everybody from Brazil is really from Nigeria. They're originally either from Nigeria or West Africa. What happened was the Portuguese came and they did their thing, and you know the story, you know the vibes. And people from West Africa and people from Portugal, that's the mixture of Brazil. So they will range in all different shades, they will range in all different complexions, and at the end of the day, the number one skin tone in Brazil is white. Now, here goes Auston Holleman right here, talking to what you would consider a lighter white Brazilian. Now, at the end of the day, you guys have to understand, this man was asking a female on the beach, if you like me, would you kiss me? If you like me, would you go home with me? If you like me, could we get it popping right now? And pretty much her not understanding English, she was just prompted to say yes. He was prompting people to say yes. And if they didn't say yes, he will end the interview. But this female, she was just saying yes, yes, yes. And then he was like, fellas, go and get your passports. This was the clip. I'm not going to play the clip, but this was the clip right here. And then after that, the word got out and this man started receiving death threats. Let me tell you guys something about dating. This is the problem with the red pill. The red pill, they make you care too much about women. And when I made that post the other day, listen, stop caring so much about women. Let women do them, and as men, we do us. People took that as offense, and I don't care, because this is what happens when you care too much about women. This is what happened when you care too much about dating. You get kicked out the country. This man is young. He's barely 25, and he is literally banned from Brazil. He's banned from Brazil. He misses Brazil, but he can't go to Brazil. There's a reason he can't go to Brazil, because he was disrespecting the culture, and he was disrespecting the woman of Brazil. You guys have to understand, no woman is easy. Let me tell you that right now. You might meet a female, and just because she kisses you, the only reason she kissing you is because she thinks that you are everything and more. She thinks that you are a bag of chips. Don't take that for granted, because guarantee you she's not walking around kissing everybody else. So if a female kisses you easily, that didn't come easy. It was something that you were doing and you did it right. So at the end of the day, take easy out your mind. Everybody always want to talk about easy, dating easy. Let me tell you guys something. To date in Brazil, the ticket, depending on if you fly business class or depending on if you fly regular, to leave from America to go all the way down to South America, it's going to cost you about $2,000. We're not talking about the clothes. We're not talking about the hotel. So how is dating in Brazil easier than dating in Dallas, Texas? It's actually harder to date in Brazil than it is to date in Texas, because if you date in Brazil and you got 12 months out the year, and if you just in love and you just say you're financially able to go 7 months out the year, man, you're already in 14,000 deep in a hole. And we're just talking about airfare. We're not talking about your hotel. We're not talking about your steak dates with these females, because I understand that when you go to Brazil, you are American. You're coming until BRICS happen, until the currency exchange doesn't go in our favor. If things change, you just say Brazilian currency go back 1-1 with the dollar. A lot of people have to understand, but back in the days, a lot of countries were 1-1 with the dollar. Argentina is one of them. Now Argentina is crazy with hyperinflation. It's like 600 to 1. But Argentina at one point in time was 1-1. A lot of places was 1-1. So if the dollar goes back to the reais, you guys have to understand, all these Brazilian women are going to go back to Brazilian men, and a lot of these Brazilian women are not going to be into Americans. A lot of these guys that are passport bros, they're hyping it up like this is easy. Yes, these women do look beautiful, but yes, these women are here in Miami. And my main thing is this: I'm a man. I do not want to be limited. If I see a Brazilian in Miami, I need to be able to pull up on her in Miami. If I see a bad chick in Miami, or if I see a bad chick in LA, listen, my confidence is worldwide. If I'm in LA, I'm winning in LA. If I'm in Hollywood, I'm winning in Hollywood. If I'm in the Rodeo, I'm winning on Rodeo. If I'm in New York, I'm winning in Harlem. If I'm in New York, I'm winning in Queens. I'm not going to say no place is easier. At the end of the day, you guys have to understand, Americans don't travel to Brazil, especially younger Americans, because the airfare. So if a Brazilian woman runs into an American guy, it's like, wow, nice to meet you. And the reason it's like that is because the airfare is so expensive. You think dudes with felonies is going to Brazil? No. You think dudes who barely scraping to get the 2 for $7 at Burger King is going to Brazil? No. So all Brazilian women who like American men, chances are, unless you're a professional sports player, chances are, unless you're a rapper, because I think Rich the Kid, he just did a video down there in Brazil. So unless you're a professional entertainer, Americans, let the truth be told, we don't really fly to Brazil. Brazil is expensive. People will prefer the Dominican Republic before they go to Brazil, because the Dominican Republic, if you leave from JFK, if you leave from Atlanta, is 10 times cheaper than if you actually go all the way to the bottom of South America. Let me tell you guys something. Now, let's go to Africa. This woman right here is beautiful. For this man to say she's below his standards, he's tripping. She's beautiful. She's chocolate. The problem is, growing up in America, America does a programming and a brainwashing on your mind, and it makes you not like anything that's not white or close to white or light bright. If it's not albino, if it's not red bone, a lot of men are programmed that it's not exotic. This female right here is exotic. For this man to go on his community post and put that the females that was in his content were below his standards. Let me tell you something about standards and preference. I said this in many lives, and I'm going to say this again. I said this in many lives, and guess what? It's going to save many lives. Let it breathe. Keep your preference to yourself. And I'm going to say this again. Keep your preference to yourself. Whatever you like, you like. Because a female like her, believe it or not, she could be mistaken for Brazilian. You got to understand, Brazil, they're going to push and promote what they want to promote. But that's the media. It's by design. It's like any other culture. When you see the politicians are going to be white. But then when you actually hit the island, you're going to realize that, wow, like, I mean, real talk. Like, for instance, when I went to the Dominican Republic, I see more people like me than I do the politicians that represent the Dominican Republic. So it's like that when it comes to Brazil as well. When you go to Brazil, Brazil and Africa is one and the same. And this is why this video must be made, because to me, this is what you call self-hate. This female right here, when he compared to the woman in Brazil, what he's trying to say is the lighter ones in Brazil, because she looks like she's from Brazil. You got to understand, the people in Brazil, the majority of these people are black. Brazil is just like the Dominican Republic. You can see what you want to see in politics, but when you actually touch down, you're going to see a lot of people in Brazil are black. A lot of people in Brazil can be mistaken for any part of Africa, because Brazil pretty much is Africa. So for this man to say that the women are below his standards, you guys have to understand, stop having sex for 1 year. Call a timeout, pull back, stay away from women for 1 year. I love it. Listen, I started a boot camp called the SRC. A part of me wants to bring it back, but then I keep drinking about the drama, and a part of me is like, no, I'll be good. But I still have a program called the SRC that I run, in the words of Deontay Wilder, till his day. And the whole goal was for men to take a year off from intercourse, take a year off from women. Once you take a year off from intercourse and you take a year off from women, you come back with a new set of eyes. You guys have to understand, this woman right here that he is calling less attractive, she is chocolate, she is beautiful, she is golden. She got that M&M touch, melt in your mouth, not in your hands, let it breathe. You guys have to understand, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. This female right here, for this man to say that she is below his standards, it goes to show you the programming in America. This is why in America, a lot of guys who are our color, they are forced to date with the Sukihanas and they are forced to date with the Sexy Reds. Now, I got a video dropping on this, but a lot of people keep talking about why is Sexy Red influence so heavy. That's because the majority of black people in America, we really live in the hood. So if you got a hood female rapper, guess what? She really represents the voice of the masses. And that was deep. That was deep. And I'm gonna bring that back from the top. DJ, bring it back, come rewind. DJ, bring it back, come rewind. Listen, the majority of black people in America, we live in the hood. So if you got somebody like Sexy Red and she represents the hood rats and the Sukihana represents the hood rats, people want to know how is it selling. That's because the majority of black people live in the hood. So if the majority of the black people live in the hood, and we're talking about the females, guess what? The Glorillas are going to sell out. The Sexy Reds are going to sell out. That's just how the game goes. But you guys have to understand that everything is by design. And when I say everything is by design, the dating game in America, if you are a man and you carry yourself like a man, is actually great. It's actually great. Actually, I go out. I did monk mode for 3.5 years, missed the 1,095 days. I'm still going, but I date. I go out. I spend time with females. I enjoy myself. And I can actually say the dating game in America, pump, 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 pump up the volume, pump up the volume, pump, 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 pump up the volume, pump up the volume. I have a great time in America. Down south, South Carolina, North Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, St. Louis, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, Oregon. I have a good time. I pull up. And at the end of the day, listen, I have a good time. The day in America, it's all about, are you spending or are you there with your personality? Me, I tell females straight up, I'm a content creator. So when we go out, trust me, I'm taking footage of the food. I'm taking footage of everything. Trust me. And I write it off as a business expense at the end of the year. Don't think you're going to be making bands on YouTube, and when tax time come, you're just going to be making 20 bands on YouTube. And no, you're not going to have anything to write it off. So trust and believe. I go out in America. I date in America. I'm not in any relation in America, but I just have a good time. I feel like I don't even date. I just go out to eat. So I guess that's not even dating. But I go out, I have a good time. And I just want to let everybody know, red pill coaches are lying to you. For this man right here to say the women in Africa are below his standards, what is wrong with this female? You got to understand, Africa, they come in different shades, they come in different complexions. I'm telling you, shout out to South Africa, one of the first places I went to Africa. But I mean, they're super red. You got they're called colored, they're super red. And they just come in all different shades of colors, like Baskin Robbins. It's like 31 flavors out there in Africa. It's beautiful. But the problem is, it's so important that as content creators, we don't get caught up in the hype. And we had the late, great Kevin Samuels, very controversial, no longer here with us, but very controversial. You average at best. So a lot of people saw when you bash black women and you put black women down, the success that comes with bashing black women, the super chats, the Cash App, the PayPals, the donations that come with bashing black women. That's why I love my content, because at the end of the day, I'm not hungry for super chats. I'm not hungry for Cash Apps. I'm not hungry for PayPals. If I was hungry for Cash Apps, I'd just come on right now and start bashing black women tomorrow. But I can't do that because it's not in me. And if it's not in me, it's not on me. Let it breathe. But Auston Holleman, you guys have to understand, this man right here, he makes a living from putting women down. No woman is below your standards. Everything is not for everybody. That's a gem. Please get your notepads ready. Get your iNotes ready. Get everything ready. And I'm going to say this one more time. Everything is not for everybody. Once you understand that, you will keep your judgment as far as looks to yourself. If I go to Target, I don't be like, oh, she's ugly. Oh, she's pretty. No, that's personal opinion. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This man right here is in Africa and he wants to be in Brazil. Let me tell you guys something. When you travel, be on your best behavior and you never have to go through any sad thing like this. This man wants to be in Brazil, but he's afraid to return to Brazil because they send death threats out on this man. If you're not familiar with this guy, he has made the news all the way from CNN. He has made the news from Fox 5. He has made the news. Melanie King, everybody, Duke O'Shea Jackson, everybody hyped this man up for failure. Duke O'Shea Jackson hyped him up for failure. Melanie King hyped him up for failure. All the older men around him hyped him up for failure. Every podcast hyped him up for failure. Pearly Things, everybody hyped this man up for failure. And guess what? He failed. Because once you love a country, the whole goal is never to get kicked out the country. Like, I love the Dominican Republic. Listen, I don't know what I'll do if the Dominican Republic tell me, no, you can't come back here. La Pampera Prendida. I'm like, no. I love Argentina. I'll be mad if Argentina give me the boot and say, listen, you no longer could come back here no more, Boludo. No. I mean, to get kicked out of a country and flee to another country, but you really want to be in one country, it goes to show, don't get bitter, get better. This man is bitter in Africa. First of all, Africa is beautiful. Africa is amazing. And let me tell you something about the dating scene in Africa. Dudes in Africa got long money. They got big money. So at the end of the day, you guys have to understand, like, guys in Africa buy females cars. Guys in Africa will buy a female a compound. Guy in Africa will shut down a Gucci shop. African dudes are different than guys in America. Like, guys in America, yeah, the drug dealers, the scammers, the rappers, they go hard. They spend $40,000 for the cat. No, the dudes in Africa, these guys really, because see, Africa is like this. Either you got it or you don't. You can't be half-stepping. You can't be pump faking. At the end of the day, there is no hesitation, only elevation in Africa. Let it breathe. So the guys in Africa with money, the females that you want to look like video vixens, they chilling with those guys. And those guys, a lot of those guys are playing with oil money. A lot of these guys in Africa, they handle their business because, see, Africa has some of the most beautiful women, but everywhere you go, listen, there's levels. And when I mean levels, I mean, if you want the dime pieces in Africa, you're going to spend more in Africa than you're going to do in Miami. You're probably going to think, Mr. Keep It Simple, I never thought about it. Man, these dudes in Africa not playing. These women in Africa, they're walking around with the cannons. They're walking around with the yams. They're walking around with melons that drop to the floor and you can pick them up and you can pick them up again. You guys have to understand, those dudes, when they see those females in Africa, they're coming through with unlimited Gucci. They're coming through with unlimited Bentleys. These guys be buying these females Rolls Royces in Africa's. So one thing also Holleman didn't realize is you went from Brazil into Simp Town and you talk about feminism. Let me tell you guys something. In Africa, he's limited to the females that he could talk to. So when he's saying that they're under his standards, what he wants, he can't afford in Africa. I want you guys to understand that. Africa, when it comes to, I will say, spending money on women, listen, those dudes come to Houston and they go crazy. Those dudes come to Atlanta and they go crazy. When it comes to spending money on females, I will say African men are willing to risk it all. They're willing to risk it all for the biscuit. You saw Raymond Hush Puppy, one of the biggest online influencers from Nigeria. My man was flying chicks out and he was stealing money. He was all in your Bank of America. He was all in your Chase account. When it comes to these females in Africa, these African men will literally go all out. They will put females on private jets in the desert. They will take these chicks to Dubai. These African dudes, when it comes to providing, they don't play with that providing game. They do not play. See, Auston Holleman, he's playing the easy. He wants the easy game. He wants to take me as I am game. You can't go to Africa with that. You got to leave. What he needs to do is he needs to go, matter of fact, don't even bring him to the Caribbean. He needs to just go back to Dallas, Texas, because he's doing the most right now. But he's saying the females are not attractive as Brazil. Listen, they could go toe to toe with Brazil. They could go neck and neck with Brazil. It's just all about the infrastructure. In Brazil, it's starting to come together, but in Brazil, poverty is real. In Africa, the guys who get the hot chicks, you got to understand these guys are playing with oil money. So you guys have to stay in your lane. This is why it's so important to let your personality shine, because don't think that you're going to run over to Africa simping on a couple $100 cash apps. That's not going to work in Africa. Don't think you're going to go to Africa and talk about, yo, you want these Jordan 4s. It's not going to work in Africa. Don't go to Africa thinking, yeah, baby, you want this little Honda. It's not going to work in Africa. The African dudes, it doesn't matter if they're in politics. It doesn't matter if they're entertainers. It doesn't matter if it's a burner boy. It doesn't matter if they're using burner phones and calling themselves burner boys. It doesn't matter. Them dudes in Africa, they go hard in the paint like Waka Flocka single. And they buy these females whatever, whenever, all day, 24/7, 365. The simping doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And the reason I call it simping is because they do this with 7, 8 girls in rotation, shutting down a Gucci store for 7, 8, 10 girls. See, you guys have to do your research before you travel to these countries. He didn't do his research on Brazil. When you go to Brazil, you're going to realize that Brazil, 9 out of 10, the hottest female in Brazil are attracted to white males. So when you go to Brazil, 9 out of 10, a lot of females that mess with you because you're American is transactional. And if you're not speaking Portuguese and if you're not going on steak dates, a lot of these females are not talking to you. And a lot of these females don't respect you. A lot of these females, if they don't like what you're doing, they will tell you, take your videos down. You guys have to understand. Now, before we finish this video, look at this female to the left. Totally beautiful. Nothing is wrong with her. How is she below his standards? And this is a problem with the minds of humans. Everybody feel they better than somebody. Just because, listen, let me tell you guys something. If I approach a female and she tells me no, she has the right to tell me no. She doesn't know me. And beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And if she looks at me and if she be like, oh, he look like somebody that got dunked on, listen, that's her opinion. It's all love. At the end of the day, if I wanted a phone number and she think I look like a guy that got dunked on and posterized on a 2K photo, it's all love. It's all love. No love lost. But her opinion of how I look doesn't matter. The same way Auston Holleman, his opinion of how he thinks females in Africa look, he needs to keep that to himself, because see, African females, I got to stand up. African females, they could go toe to toe with Brazilian females. I don't even want to say that, because Brazilians are Africans. All around the world, this world would divide us, but a lot of people, the African culture, you cannot hide it. It's in their culture. You cannot hide it. Brazilians are Africans. Dominicans are Africans. I don't care what they want to say. Cubans are Africans. They're Africans. So at the end of the day, even if they went down to the islands, listen, everything traced back to the motherlands. Let it breathe.